Okay, so let's get started. And if I go back, you just pause for a second. It's because I'm trying to let people in, but we'll try and keep this as smooth as possible. Okay, so what I'm trying to do today is I have a keyword, growth marketing, which I want to rank for. And I'm going to use AI as much as possible to give me quite a few things that I want to write about growth marketing. And we'll look at also some examples where you can insert some SERP concepts in it, some SERP keywords in it to influence the AI to give you what you need and write better or with better context. Okay, first thing first, we want to generate some title ideas. And what I did currently is that in order for AI write to start writing and give you any sort of input, it needs something to start with. So what I did here is I add a keyword, just added the keyword called growth marketing. And so just, the AI has some perspective as to what I am going to be doing. Now let's go ahead and see some examples. So an easy example would be, right, 5 title ideas for an essay about something, right? So let's go ahead and paste that in. And that something is growth marketing. Okay, so there's a few ways to go about doing this. One is a regular way where you ask the AI to figure it out on its own and give you those 5 title ideas. So what you can do is that you can press a new line and you can give it some context as to, I want a list of 5 things. And then maybe just input it as high and say write for me. Okay, so it gave you more than 5 ideas. What are the 3 main benefits of growth marketing, right? So there's many things that it gave you here. Okay, so we can go ahead and use why is growth marketing important and maybe mash it with something else. Why is growth marketing important and the benefits of growth marketing or something like that. That would give you a better idea. So use this as inspiration. I'm not suggesting that you just copy and paste this, but use this as a suggestion to see what works for you and what fits with our guidelines and instructions for creating a better title. So with that perspective in mind, what I would also see is that, is there any keywords that I could be including in it that the AI is not generating, right? So in this case, if I go ahead and see some title ideas, and I see highest frequency keywords over here, I would get an idea. Okay, so marketing and growth highly relevant because that's what almost all pages have used. Conference and blog, maybe not that much, right? So I don't want to include those. So I just added growth marketing. But let's say if you wanted to influence this generation with maybe one more keyword, right? So I could say this then in that case. Okay, so in this case, what I'm going to do is that we have keywords. So we know something using keywords, right? So about marketing, and maybe in keywords, I want benefits, how to, or what. So maybe it gives me a question. This is, again, the AI is going to try its best to give you outputs which are around about that, but don't expect it to do 100% work for you. So I'm just trying to give it some more context and see if it can give me some title ideas around this keyword, right? So now I can go ahead and press 1 over here and let the AI write for me. So I can let the AI write for me from here. And I'm going to show you now a different way where you can instruct it to give you certain things. And this is GPT-3 taking some time to force the data back and forth. And sometimes it's possible that in a very few cases, it will not return anything and it will just stop, right? So that's possible. We can just give it a try again. 1 second, letting a few more people in. Okay, so we can just go ahead and try again. There we go. It will try and give you, so this did not give me anything good that I can see here. So, all right, we're going to delete this and I'm going to use a second tactic to give me this, which is our instruct command. There we go. So growth marketing, the benefits of the change. Growth marketing in and how it can help you grow your business, right? So now this is some powerful stuff. I can use this. So what I did was I influenced it with some SERP data and suggested it give me a title. Okay, let's go ahead and delete that. Okay, all right. We have a full thing on our title. Now the next part is where you come with the meta description, right? So before we move on to the meta description, I wanted to say, write title, write attention grabbing titles for something. So you could also use something like that. So it's the tone of your voice that can also influence the AI. So you say attention grabbing titles for growth marketing, and you can instruct it and not write it. So instructed, which is using the command. Okay, not sure what that is, but what we will do now is that since it's not give me anything, I'm going to force it to give me a link. There we go. So you could do say psychology of growth marketing and the new sales revolution. So it's going to try and be a little creative and create those attention grabbing titles as well. And you can mash some of these tactics with the keywords from SERP and create a title for yourself as well. There's some really powerful stuff that this AI can do here. Okay, so let's move on to meta descriptions. Now, meta description is a bit tedious to create with instruct or any of this thing. So that's why we have a template for it. And what we do is we ingest keywords from SERP and train it on the fly to give it output which is relevant to the title and the subject at hand. So all you need to do is click on meta description. Let's see if it is good enough. And many times it's not going to be great. So you're going to have to go ahead and modify it a little bit and make it relevant to what you want. Okay, so meta description is quite straightforward. I am going to copy this and make this my H1 tag. Okay, let's go ahead and move and go to our section. So I would first go to instructions and I want to see what kind of data I need. So let's see, there's 16 sections that I need about. I want to see some ideas. And before, okay, so I'm not even going to look at the ideas. What I need is keywords and some highest frequency keywords. So this is what our SERP data is suggesting that we need to have in our H2 and H3 tags, right? So let's say we need this in our H2 tags. What I would do is let me go ahead and copy this keyword. And this is not the greatest copy. Growth, marketing, grow. Okay, sorry, just a few more people trying to come in. Okay, growth, funnel, marketers, traditional, best, customer, and I will just flywheel. So that's something is important. And okay, so I have some keywords that I am trying to target in my H2 tags, right? So I want an outline that talks about majority of these keywords in them. So let's see if we can influence AI to give us titles which consist of this keyword. This is painful, sorry. And in future, we'll make it even more easier to automate some of these processes. But okay, all right. So let's go ahead and look at some examples for outlines. So what you can do is that without even considering the titles right now, you could say, let's go ahead and look at a little complex example. It's not too complex, but something where you're giving it specific instructions on writing 10 topic outline for an essay about something. So the essay about something is, what is growth marketing and why is it important? Why is it important? Okay, so I can now, what I can do is I can go and start writing it for me using AI, or I can also command it. So let's just go ahead and command it. Okay, there we go. So you have an outline that you can start working with for growth marketing. Let's see if it is good enough for us or not. Okay, just a second. Being bombarded with close the windows. Okay. Okay, so this is not the current outline. So let's go ahead and delete this, and make this our. Okay, so our sections is slowly moving in the right direction. Now let's go ahead and see what it's catering to. It's targeting some of the keywords. It's also targeting some of the section keywords, not all, right? So now let's see if we can create another example where we can influence it to include some of this keyword. Let's go ahead and delete this. I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this right here. And we are going to use this particular example that I created. Okay, so create a 5 topic. So I am going to make this 10, maybe a 10 topic outline for an essay about something. So about what is. Okay, so the reason why I'm giving this command up over here is because think about this. Humans can, their eye can go up and down, right? But when you are training a robot to do your work, you need to give. Just a few more people coming in, so I'm letting them in. Hey, Malvio, welcome here. Okay, so let's get back to this example where, okay, so the reason why I'm giving this instructions up here and then asking for an outline later on is because AIs are progressive. They read in a linear fashion, right? And most of the time. So, but in order for it to read properly, follow your instructions, you need to give it step-by-step instructions. And the first instruction would be, what is it that I am trying to achieve with this particular command or this particular prompt? So the way you do that is you give it some context, create a 10 topic outline for an essay about what is growth marketing and why is it important, and by using the below keywords. So now what I'm going to do is let's use this keywords that we collected from SERP and use it right here. Okay, we'll leave that over there. Now what I can do is, in order for not to waste more credits or trial and error, you can totally run trial and error and just select this particular thing and hit command over here. But what I would say, add a little more context and say, I want it in the list format. So it gives you exactly that. You could also say, I don't want it in a list format, but I just wanted like a dash. So I know where my outline start and my they end with. So let's go ahead and do this and then press the instruct command. Okay, so what it did was it started coming up with an outline, but since we go to AI write, okay, so it did not give me everything. So what I can do now is I can press a dash again and then say write for. It will read all of these things and not repeat those. So this is conclusion. So it did not finish what it started with. So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and delete this outline part that we had and run it again. So you can press Control Z and go back to that output. It keeps doing that in my. Okay, so it's giving sort of what we want, but not all of it. It might be including strategies and some of this stuff, but it's really not doing what we want it to do. Okay, that's okay. We can see if we can emphasize a little more and just reiterate 10 topic outline using keywords. So this works a little differently for all topics, right? The better it understands and the less complexity there is, it will try and do a very good job. So it's just up to us to give it a little slightly better context. Okay, so now it has started using strategy and some of the keywords that it needs that we were giving it. So let's go ahead and see if it has started including some of these keywords or not. So I'll just press enter here, one dot, and okay, let's just select, okay, and make it H2, refresh. Okay, so the score improved, right? So let's see if it started including some of the keywords, right? So it's including more and more keywords, right? So now you can make more adjustments to it. And like, so it's just 8 through here. So it's possible that the remaining 2 might have some of these keywords as well. So you can adjust this outline and do some of the things as well. But the point of doing SERP analysis and how we recommend is that for some general topics, this would work great. But what we really recommend is you go through our sections and SERP data and make sure that you include everything that's relevant to your topic. And as our software, gets into more and more mature state, we will try and automate as much as we can in order for you to get to that outline super fast. Okay. Okay, so we looked at a couple of examples of how you create an outline. So there's a few. Write an outline for an essay about something using below keywords that we saw, for an essay about something, and make sure the outline covers key concepts. So instead of using some of this keywords, you can even also give it some key concepts, as in a growth marketing flywheel is an important framework, for example, and it will try and create an outline with that key concept in it. So you can try, once this webinar is over, I will share this sheet on our website and you can use some of these examples directly when you're trying to create content. Okay, so all right, let's move on. And now we'll go to the part where you do some research. Okay. So researching, like, this is super easy, right? Like if you were trying to find, best places in San Francisco, or the risk of keto diet, or benefits of keto diet, or just n number of things that you can do, right? So write things to write things to do what list. Well, let's see if we can find some questions which have list views. People also ask, how much does a marketer make? What are the highest paying salaries? List some. Okay, so we can say list some business growth strategies, select it, and command. There we go. So it started listing it. So now you can be a little more precise and say not list some, but list 10 or list 5 business growth strategies, right? So let's press Control Z. There we go. So it's super easy to start building your content once you have figured out your outline. You can start researching your outline and expanding it into subtopics, concepts that you want to talk about in those sections as well. So this is some really powerful stuff. Now, this researching is better than just like finding some of these things. It can also do a few very wonderful things. So let's go ahead and see some statistics, right? So I would say I want to see percentage. Okay, so there are some mentions of percentages. Now let's see. Okay, what does it say? A SaaS business starting at this with 3 monthly churn rate. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Let's say I want to extract some statistics from it. So Control Z. Okay, let's find something else. Okay, it says that there isn't allowed okay, so I don't even know what it says. I'm just going to blankly copy this right now. The point is that you don't need to think much when you're trying to run some of these things. Okay, maybe not great. Maybe this is not great. Okay, this text has a lot of percentages. So let me get some of this right here and paste it here as well. Okay, so what the intention of this is I want to extract some statistics that I can include in my content. And the way I found is I just grabbed a bunch of percentages and see if this sort of makes sense, right? So, okay, Control C. Let's see if this works for us. So what I said is extract statistics from a passage. And I am going to copy that passage and I'm going to say statistics 1. Okay. So it's important to put a full stop here. It needs to know that you ended it. So, okay. Okay. So it extracted a couple of things from this, but you can say concise statistics and see if that can give you something like in a list form. Okay, so it's the data is as good as you feed it in. Okay, so if the data has value in it, it can extract better stuff as well. There's also some other things that you can do while extracting this statistics. Hold on a second. Okay, you can say statistics about something as well. And that will be even more precise. So statistics about retention. And that will be even more specific as to what it extracts from it. So mind it, if there is no statistics about customer retention in it, it's not going to extract it either. So, okay, please select a little less than 600 characters, right? So I can say, let's just remove this out. So it's going to try its best. So it might not be always right on, but if you give it proper statistics that it can actually extract from, it will do a wonderful job in extracting it. And some examples I already posted on a blog that I was working on. So use this a little wisely and experiment it. But once you get a hang of it, it's going to be super easy for you to start working with this content. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete that and go to sentence completion. So, all right. So what I showed currently is a lot of instruct commands in doing quite a bit of the work for you. But this is also very powerful. And there are certain things that you need to consider. So you can say that, okay, so benefits of growth marketing and how it helps marketer. So, or you can say how helps as well. So this context over here is very little. Okay, so it's possible that when you run this command, the AI can actually lie and start giving you some random stuff. So this is not advised. But what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that if you're writing about a product, or let's say you're working on an affiliate product and you want to mention top gaming stations, right, under $500, right, and you name that gaming station, when you start writing descriptions about it, or when you start explaining benefits about having high RAM or something like that, it will try and force and include that key term in it because it can read the last 600 characters. So that is very powerful, right? So you don't have to adjust it and make and personalize it in many cases to talk about the products that you are talking about in the content. So it can totally do that. And let's just see if it actually, okay, so the strategy of outranking can help you to grow your business by creating more customer, blah, 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 right? So it can start understanding what your intent is from what you have written above, take it and give you outputs according to that. So the better context or the better content that you've written above the fold where you're trying or you're asking AI to write for you, the better output you will get. So make sure that when you use these features, you have some proper context going before you start writing content. Okay, second thing. So how much does this product, like how much does GPT-3 know? Like this is a major question. So people ask me like, it's not giving me output for the niche that I am working in, or nuanced concepts and stuff like that, right? Which is true, because GPT-3 is trained till 2019, while some of there are other products within GPT-3 that can train on the fly and stuff like that as well. So there's quite a bit of experimentation needed to get to a point where you can ingest tons and tons of SERP data and have it actually talk about nuanced topics as well without giving proper input to it. So it's going to take a certain time for AI to get there and understand these things and be able to be capable of ingesting this data. But we're not there yet, right? So it understands everything up till 2019, but besides that, let's say for example, COVID happened after the release of OpenAI. So when you are talking about COVID, you might have seen like examples where it starts talking about fungus and benefits of COVID, like for some reason, right? Like that's totally off track. What you can do is that, just how like I gave it, Outranking is a growth marketing product that helps marketers, you can give it just a very slight nudge and say that COVID is a highly transmittable virus and it has significant health implications. That one sentence is enough for the AI to help you create content around that core concept for the entire post. But you need to give it that context for some nuanced topics that it does not know. So take that as a benchmark, and whenever you are writing content, make sure you follow that particular guideline. Okay, there's also like, when using AI, right, what we recommend is that you don't have like super high outputs for it, because then you have very little control over where the AI goes, right? So when I'm saying like Outranking is a growth marketing tool, let's say, that can help marketers, and I can just leave it from here. It will take this particular content plus this, the title in context, and write for it. And since this is very high output, you have very little control over what it's going to talk about. So what I suggest, or what I usually do when I am creating content, is not to let it do majority of my work, but let it do the heavy lifting for me. So what I would say is like, I would give it precise instructions and then keep the output to low and write for me. That allows me to steer it in the direction that I want it to, and potentially not having to rewrite a bunch of stuff, read a bunch of stuff and delete it, and just go back and forth, right? So this will give you more precisely how to go about and approach your content. Okay, so let's go ahead and delete this. All right. So next up is creating feature snippets. So in order for us to create feature snippets, we need to give it a question that can generate a feature snippet, or has an answer that can be in form of a feature snippet. And a feature snippet is maybe an instructions, like a step 1, step 2, step 3, or is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like best softwares out there, or best home remedy for back pain, or things like that, right? Which has specific things that it can give you in a list format, is what we go after. So let's go ahead and see some questions and see. Okay, so this is an example that we saw, right? Like what are business growth strategies? So what we did was we created a utility that can answer this particular question in form of a feature snippet. And you can also use instruct command. So let's go ahead and use instruct command to read it. But this is, again, not trained the way we have trained this particular model here in order to give you precise input. So let's see if this gives us in a list format, but I highly doubt it. So this is going to give more like an answer, right? So no, we don't want that. We want list. So it started coming up with a list for each. Okay. And if it did not, what you can do is that you can start with what we did before. There we go. So my output is low right here. So it's giving me lower outputs. You can easily adjust those high and medium. And what I suggest is that when you are creating feature snippets or answer type questions, you can leave it at the default value, because most likely it's going to cover the core topics within that output. And if it does not, you can just come here and click write for it. But this is not, again, very concise, right? So let's go ahead and find some other questions. So what are the best marketing jobs? Like that could be an ideal feature snippet that you could use. So let's go ahead and go to our AI write feature now. Select this. Please select some content. Okay, right. There we go. So this is sort of feature snippet, and you can easily make it longer or shorter by allowing by clicking write for me again, and it will start elaborating those points, and you can easily create a feature snippet out of it, and then start discussing about what marketing managers' jobs are, and it can pretty much understand like a lot of things. So let's say you started with this. So let's say this was your H2. This is a very powerful example. Let's say this is your H2, and now you want to talk about everything that this particular roles do. You can say marketing manager dot dot, and then say write for me. It will start writing. It will say okay, did not, but let's say I want to say duties of marketing manager. Okay, so it can start like elaborating that as well, and then it's super easy for you to build content. And just from the examples that I showed you earlier, you can also ingest some keywords here. So you could let's say this is duties of marketing manager. I say marketing. Let's go ahead and see manager topic coverage. See what topics I need to cover. So there is nothing related to managers, which is great. Okay, clusters, there's anything that I see for marketing managers? Maybe not, right? Let's say if there was something around digital, and there might be, right? So marketing, use of digital, Bulldog, I don't care about this. Let's say media. There's nothing around media as well. Community, nothing. There might be many things related marketing, right? So let's say if you were trying to elaborate this particular thing, you can come here and see what relates to this particular content and cluster. And when you start creating your content, you can just ingest those keywords by putting keyword right here, and just add those cluster keywords and start writing from here. It will consider those keywords as well. That's how smart it is. Okay, so let's move on. So this is some examples of featured snippets that I showed. Now let's see some paraphrasing examples, right? So, okay, all right. There are ways. So most of you know that there are two ways to rewrite, right? Which is paraphrasing. But there's a few other things that you can also do for paraphrasing, a little longer paragraphs, or maybe just having it in the flow. So let's use one of these right now, and it rewrote that, right? Okay, there's also other ways. What I'm going to do is let me separate this so my AI cannot read that. I can say, and if your passage is longer, it will start rewriting it from right here. And you can just go to AI, write for me. Please write at least 100. Okay, so I've not written 100 before this, right? So let me go ahead and just select this and add that at the end and say write for me. Okay, so it started rewriting it. My output is a little high. Okay, so here, this is the rewritten paragraph. And sometimes I see that it's lying too. Okay, so you can just easily Control Z. There we go, Control V. Okay, and try it again and see if it works. But if it does not, there is another function that you can use to rewrite 500. This is for longer forms. So, okay, so again, you see that, right? Like when I was constructing, when I asked it to rewrote something, I did not give it proper construction of sentences. I just copied and pasted something behind something, which might made have sense or might not have, right? So the better your input is, the better your output is going to be, and that's given. You give it garbage, it's gonna spit out garbage just like that. Okay, so let's go ahead and change some of these things right here. Let me delete this, and I'd love to show you this. Okay, so many of you work with different languages, and in order to translate, so there's pretty easy ways now to translate any language back and forth. And all you have to do is just put, this is English and this is German, and say write for me. Okay, it did not, but what I can do is I can instruct it. There we go. So it wrote the German version of this particular sentence. So it's just as simple as that. Take it from here and start just translate a paragraph. And what we recommend is that you translate less than 300 characters at a time to not make the AI wander off and be able to read all the past text that. Okay, there are many other things that you can do. So this one is very creative. What this does is that it will create a passage for you using SERP keywords. Now, that's something that's important, right? So if we look at this and say growth marketing, so it's about a team, right? So let's say team. I want to see all the keywords related to team, right? So about marketing, growth marketing using below keywords. And you can give it a little better context and say growth marketing and why teams are why teams are important for growth marketing or something like that. And it will write even more specific to that and say keywords. So I'm going to start including keywords from the cluster, team, member, leadership, and marketing. Okay, passage. And so let me press this so it does not start reading duties of marketing manager. There we go. So there's leadership word here. It's going to be most likely members here somewhere. Or if there's not an exact word for members, you can also add a plus plus here or make an adjustment right here and start adding that. So, but in most cases, it's going to do a pretty good job at coming up with something. So the better context you give it, the better output you're going to get again. So if I say, let's say growth about, so this might not make total sense, but again, let's see if it, okay. So it started talking about team now. It started talking about leadership now, growth marketing. So we have marketing in it. And this is here, this is redundant. Okay. So it pretty much included all the keywords that we wanted it besides the member. And you can adjust that a little bit. So you can also similarly say, write a lengthy passage or a lengthy passage that covers the key concepts or key phrases or keywords, right? So there's n number of ways you can adjust the AI to give you outputs for. Crazy. Okay. All right. Now let's see some other example, right? So let's say you have a big paragraph. It's totally new nuance to you. The language is nuanced to you, and you want to include that concept in your content. You grab the content from somewhere, you paste it here. Now you're trying to make sense of it. So what you can also do is you can just you can have a paragraph that you've copied, and you can say key concepts, and it will extract key concepts from it. There we go. So you understand everything very easily as to what the paragraph is talking about, and you can have as much as 600 characters in it. So that's a lot of things that you can do. You can also extract phrases. Okay, it did not give me what I needed. Phrases are a bit tricky, but it will definitely do keywords. There we go. So it started elaborating, which we don't need. So growth marketing and motivation are the keywords from this particular paragraph. So it's pretty powerful stuff. You can extract statistics, keywords, concepts. You can convert a paragraph from a paragraph to a list with the concept, right? So there's many things that you can do while you're creating them content. So the point is that using AI to let it do 100% of the work is going to generate crap content. But if you are in tune with how to use AI to benefit you in creating content which is powerful, then this is how you use it. Okay, so writing creative. So this is, I think, the last part of this presentation, and we've already done 45 minutes. So thank you guys for sticking around. I hope this has been valuable. I will do one example and then take any questions that you guys have. So you could also say okay, write a witty quote about something. So it can convert product descriptions into headlines. It can generate inspirational quotes about something. It can research a quote to insert somewhere, right? There's many things that you can say, find benefits of keto diet, or say extract okay, so write a short product description for something. The description should be less than a paragraph and should be creative in tone, right? So this is something that I came up with, and there's an example of this in the blog. But what I did was, okay, so this is probably total BS, right? And what I'm going to do is ask it to give me an output for that. Okay, there we go. Maybe it makes a little sense, not totally, right? So it can do a lot of these things, which might just be some thoughts that you have and you want to incorporate it in your content. You're not sure, so you do some research, but instead you can allow the AI to do some of the research and come up with this witty, creative parts that might take you a few minutes to tens of minutes to rewrite and come up with something that's creative. So this is how it can help you create content. And I pretty much covered all the functions that we have here. Answer questions similarly, right? You can select a question. So I selected this. What does a growth marketing manager do, right? So you can easily just insert that, go here. Let's scroll up and say, answer it. So it will, come up with a concise paragraph which has answer. And then you can adjust it. Maybe if you don't like the tone of it, you can reduce the output and then take it in the direction that you want it to go, ingest some keywords in it, and then let it do the remaining part of the work. So I hope this was really helpful. And let's look at some questions now. Okay, I'm opening up my chat. If I can just find it. There we go. Okay, guys. So do you guys have any questions? Was this useful at all? Hello, everyone. You're welcome, Eddie. Sounds good. Anyone, any questions? Feel free to drop in. I'll give it a quick minute, see if anyone has any questions or want to see certain examples of how you do things. Already, no questions. That's great. Okay, is there a way to stop manually having to remove the command after the AI output? Not yet. So in the command only, we have kept this so people can adjust it back and retry it by pressing Control Z, and then so what we've noticed is like most of the time when you command it to write something, it's more sort of an instruction type thing, and it's not going to be mostly part of your content. So you can easily just select it and delete it. But in our upcoming versions, we will give you control over how you want to limit certain things and customize this outputs as well. Yes. So not rewrite it. You can obviously redo it, undo it, but there is an history. So let's do a certain thing. So like we already did some rewriting. So let's go ahead and see some history. What it will do is that it will give you a history of everything that you've done here. And if there was any rewriting that I've done, so let's go ahead and see some rewriting. I'll just go ahead and rewrite something. Okay, I rewrote something and refresh it. Okay, so this is the output and input, and you can compare it if you want it, and you can change it back to what it was. Does that answer your question, Marco?
It was on the chat screen. How did you find the history? I didn't see how you got to that.
Okay, so you click on file, and there's history here, and there's AI write history. So there's two histories. So one is for AI writing, and you can see all the commands that you executed, so you can refer it back. And then there is also versioning history. So I've not created any versions because I'm still working in the documents. As soon as I click save, it will create a version for me. And if you exit the editor, it will automatically start creating a version for you as well.
Perfect. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay. Any more questions, guys? Alrighty, then we'll thank you all for coming to the webinar. I hope this was really helpful. And we will post this webinar later on YouTube and share it on your video as well. So thank you all for coming and have a wonderful day.